We trusted the Fed to execute those laws when deemed prudent and necessary. I fear now, however, that our trust and confidence were misplaced. I believe in accountability. The Senate's constitutional authority to advise and consent can be a highly effective means by which this body can hold individuals accountable. It is a process through which we can express our disapproval of past deeds or our lack of confidence in future performance. I strongly disapprove of some of the past deeds of the Federal Reserve while Ben Bernanke was a member and its chairman, and I lack confidence in what little planning for the future he has articulated. Once again, I agree with Dr. Schwartz, and I'll quote him. Chairman Bernanke advocated monetary policies that contributed to excessive risk-taking, ignored or downplayed serious emerging risks, failed to use regulatory authority available to the Fed to prevent housing speculation and unsound lending practices, often misjudged the nature of problems in the markets, and contributed to market turbulence by appearing to act inconsistently, without plans, and of course in an ad hoc manner. These shortcomings stand in stark contrast to some of Chairman Bernanke's stated objectives given right here in this committee during his nomination hearing before the committee in 2005. During that hearing, Dr. Bernanke said, monetary policy is most effective when it is as coherent, consistent, and predictable as possible. I do not believe that monetary policy during the recent crisis, in which in some instances was effectively fiscal policy, was coherent, consistent, or predictable. In 2005, Dr. Bernanke said that monetary policy has become increasingly transparent to the public and financial markets, a trend that I strongly support. As I mentioned earlier, I do not believe there was any transparency in some of the actions taken during the crisis by the Fed. In 2005, Dr. Bernanke said, and I'll quote, "The Fed works closely with other regulators to ensure the safety and soundness of the U.S. banking system, and over the years it has played a constructive role in managing and mitigating diverse types of financial crises. If I'm confirmed," he said, "I will work to enhance the stability of the financial system and to ensure that the resources, procedures, and expertise are in place as needed to respond to any threats to stability that may emerge." Now, not only were there evident threats to the stability of our financial system prior to 2006, but also a complete lack of regulatory response by the Fed. And finally, in 2005, Dr. Bernanke said, "The Federal Reserve, along with other regulators, is also engaged in trying to ensure that consumers are treated fairly in their financial dealings, that their privacy is protected, and that they receive clear and understandable information about the terms of financial agreements, and that they are not subject to discriminatory or abusive lending practice." Is there any doubt at this point that we were experiencing a system-wide breakdown in mortgage underwriting and the Fed did virtually nothing until it was too late? Chairman Bernanke is a distinguished scholar, we know that, and he's a student of monetary policy and financial markets. Under his leadership, the Fed engineered some innovative ways to inject liquidity in distressed markets during the recent financial crisis. And while there may be some agreement on his handling of the crisis, we must also take into account his role leading up to the crisis. Many have said that changing horses in the middle of the stream will introduce an unacceptable level of uncertainty into the markets. On the other hand, I would argue that it can be equally damaging to our economy and our form of government if we, the United States Senate, fail to use our constitutional authority to disapprove a nomination when a particular nominee has not executed his responsibilities in a manner consistent with his own claims and our expectation. We talk a good game when it comes to accountability, but we rarely match our own rhetoric with action. In this instance, I believe we must not only express our disapproval of this particular nominee, but we should also signal future nominees that we have expectations and that those expectations should be met. For this reason and others I have articulated here, I will be opposing a second term for Dr. Bernanke as Chairman of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve.